Yeah. All right. Well, let's get going. So again, today what we're going to be talking about is Revit Families, Enscape assets, and how to bring your models to life. All right. So my name is Josh Radel. I'm one of the application engineers here at Enscape. I'm based out of Minnesota and been in the industry for a little over 6 years now. So I do all types of trainings, consulting, support, presentations, webinars, speakings across the country, and again for architects, engineers, and contractor firms all over the world. So that's a little bit about myself. So what are we going to talk about today? So we're going to do a hands-on demo. Everything I'm going to be showing you is live. We're going to be talking about is entourage RPCs, look at a little bit of Revit families and how Enscape's displaying those, talk a little bit about those, and then we're going to look at the Enscape asset library, some of the different ways to place Enscape assets into Revit. There's a cool little trick that is just for Revit only, where we can link a Revit family to an Enscape asset. Again, we'll talk about why that's important. And then from there, if we don't see any assets that we like inside the Enscape asset library, or we need some manufacturer specific ones, we're going to look at some free resources on where to find some of these 3D models. And then we're going to look at how to create our own custom Enscape assets. We'll even look at a program called Blender to do some quick model check. And again, some best practices on when creating those custom assets. Real quick, before we dive in, I do want to point out some really useful resources about all things Enscape. So our first up is our knowledge base article. If you guys have not checked that out, I highly recommend that. That is a very, very strong place to get detailed information, detailed articles about all things Enscape, literally about what each feature does. We have our system requirements on there and some troubleshooting functions as well. Again, that's a very great one. Our Enscape blog is a very great place to get latest news and useful articles all about Enscape. We do have a lot of great customer success stories on our blog as well. So again, some very powerful information on there. YouTube channel, of course, is very great for our tutorials, videos from our community and from our Enscape team here. Got a bunch of highlight videos and some really good, again, tutorials on there. Last up is our forum. Our forum is a very, very powerful place. If you guys have not checked out, again, that's one I highly recommend checking out, where you can get in-depth threads, articles, tips and tricks from our community and our Enscape team from people literally all over the world. And it's broken out by application specific. So if you have specific Revit questions, there is a whole Revit section on there dedicated to just Revit and Enscape. And again, too, we have some bunch of tips and tricks and some news and FAQ. So, all right. Let's jump right on in. So what we have here is we have obviously Revit on the left-hand side, Enscape on the right. So first up is what we're going to look at is the entourage and the RPCs. So we can see here, these are just default RPCs that come with Revit, and we can see what these are going to look like here. So here's a very great article. By default, what Enscape is going to do is it's going to take the default entourage and RPCs from ArcVision here, and it's going to convert those into Enscape assets automatically. So we can see here on this great article, again, this is on our knowledge base here. Again, great resource to check out. But we can see here the default ArcVision RPCs that are loaded up, just the people. We can see what these ones are going to be now for Enscape. If you don't want that, there's a button inside of Enscape where if you go up to the general settings tab here, and then if you go under the section called Revit, if you just uncheck that RPC or replace ArcVision content, you will need to restart Enscape. And then from there, they'll just display as the RPC content, and Enscape's assets won't be overridden. So we can see here's another one as well. Again, these are very great because they work just fine in floor plan. They look really good. And then we have another entourage right here. So here's just a generic van. But again, that one is not being overridden because that is just a generic van from the entourage library here. So that's real quick what the RPCs are looking like inside of Enscape. And then in terms of Revit families, so Enscape's going to read any kind of Revit family. It's going to display it. And what's also great too is since it's a Revit family, it has all that BIM information tied to it, which is extremely important, extremely valuable. And we can see here, again, this is just a generic Revit family. This is how it's displaying inside of Enscape. So again, this is perfect. This is what we want. So if you go to websites, obviously like BIM Object, you can download any of those. You can throw them inside of Revit, and they're going to work just fine for you. So again, we're going to read all of those. And again, we take full advantage of Revit Families. And if you're changing that, updating that, Enscape's going to show you instantaneously, obviously in real time, what's being updated here. So that's real quick about the Revit Families, but let's check out the Enscape asset library. Again, we're going to come back to Revit Families here in a second. So inside our asset library here, this is where we have over 2,500 different assets to choose from here. With each new release that comes out of Enscape, we will get new assets. So right now we have over 2,500 different ones. So coming out in our 3.2 version in November here, the next up is we're going to get a bunch of sustainability themed content. So it's going to be assets and materials that are themed with renewable energy and green architecture. So that's something to be on the lookout for. But we can see here our assets. Right now I just have the title called all, but if I sit here and scroll, I can do accessories, different types of animals, construction furniture, vehicles, vegetation, again. So if we ever played Sims, this is going to be the exact same way where we just click in place. We'll go through that in a second. With 3.1 that just came out, we did introduce, because all of these are fully textured. So, but if we're looking for more simplified ones and ones where we need to do pre-design and early stage design, if we go over here to where it says simplified down here in the tags, and we scroll down to where it says simplified, this is where you can filter out just the simplified assets. So again, these just came out with 3.1. And one little quick note here before I start placing some assets is how I'm scrolling through all these very, very fast is because I have this button down here called offline assets checked down here in the bottom right here. So this doesn't come on by default. So what you're going to do is to be able to get these to download a lot faster, where you can spin through them really quick without having to go through the internet and scroll through them. What you're going to do is you're going to hit this offline Enscape assets button. But before you continue, go to whatever folder you would like on your computer. Say, for instance, I have mine set to my documents. I go to my documents, I create a brand new folder called Enscape assets. So that folder is going to be living on my documents folder. So again, you go to my documents, create a new folder called Enscape assets. Then you check the button. Enscape is going to ask you where you would like these assets to go. And then you put it in that newly created folder that you just created. If you don't, there's a warning that's going to pop up saying Enscape will remove anything that is in the folder that you've created. So you can imagine if you set these to be downloaded to your desktop, all 2,500 different Enscape assets are going to be downloaded to your desktop, and whatever's on that is going to be removed. So that's why we create a folder first and then point these assets to go into that folder. So that was just a tech tip on how you can get these scrolling a lot faster. But let's start placing some of these. So by default, Enscape is going to place any asset on your active work plane, or if you hover over it, there's these three dots in the bottom right-hand corner of any asset here. So if I click the three dots, I can see place asset on active work plane is checked by default. But what you could do is you could hit place asset on surface. Now you can select the surface that you want and then just click and then start placing your asset. Again, these simplified assets are really great for early stage designs. So here, we'll let that be placed real quick. And there we go. Now I'll fly down to my model here and we can see what this one is doing. So again, this is a really simplified, we call it low topology. So it's not really high detailed. Again, we can see how this is really beneficial if we go into our visual settings tab and then we switch the style mode to white. So again, great for early stage designs. If we're not trying to get that photorealistic rendering we're looking for, but we're just looking for some early stage concepts. Again, this is where these simplified assets would really come in handy. And we can see too, we can start placing some people. Again, I'll hit place asset on surface. I'll select the surface I want. And then start placing. Okay, we'll let that spin up there real quick. Here we go. All right, perfect. And we can see here's this simplified asset right here versus the high quality ones that already Enscape utilizes. So again, very great. These ones are really, really good for early stage design. So if I go back to our visual settings tab, we'll go back to none. All right, now if I off check that, now this is where I get back to all of my high quality, full colored ones. So why are these assets really great? So we can see here with this generic entourage one, or even with Revit Families, you can still get a really nice looking Revit family. But if you want to push your renderings to the next level, that's where these Enscape assets really come into play. So especially for vehicles, things that are kind of really complicated to model inside of Enscape or inside of Revit. So what you can do now is let's take this car. Again, I'm going to place asset on surface. I'll select the one I want. I'll start placing my asset around. So this is where utilizing these Enscape assets can really help push your renderings to the next level. Let me just hit spacebar quick. There we go. Let's rotate now. So we can see the level and quality, what we're going to be getting here. So again, our 3Drs team goes through and creates all these by hand. And then from there, these are optimized for real-time renderings. So they're going to look very, very nice and high quality, but also the performance is going to be really, really good. So again, and same with people. Some things are kind of hard to model for Revit Families. What we can do is we can, again, hit the 3 dots, and then I can hit place asset on surface. I'll start placing that. And then, so one little tech tip is I'm placing these all inside of Revit currently right now. So that's how placing assets works right now. Coming out in 3.2. So here's this model, here's this person right here. So we can see a lot higher quality. Again, much more realistic. So that's how we can utilize this to start pushing our renderings to the next level. All right. So again, how I'm placing these inside of Revit here, that's how it currently is right now. Coming out in 3.2, we will have the ability now to, again, place assets inside of the Enscape window. So there will be a button that pops up over here where we can actually start placing assets inside of Enscape here. So we can place them along a path. We can do more scattering with them. Again, this is something coming out in 3.2 now in November. But again, so that's all coming, and all that will push back into Revit. So that was just a little tech tip right there. But all right, now, so that's how you place the asset on the surface. Now what we can do here is this is where we can utilize this other feature called the link Revit family to asset. So by default, Enscape assets just come in under the planting category. They don't have BIM information tied to it. It's just for visualization purposes. So we can see where that might be a little bit of a problem for scheduling and things like that. So what we can do here is if we go to our asset library, and then let me go find a bench. So I'll go under the furniture category here, and we'll go to, I'll take this bench. So again, I'll hover over the asset that I want, click the 3 dots in the bottom right. I'm going to hit this button called Link Revit Family to Asset. Now a little dialog box is going to pop up here where I get the list of all my Revit families. Again, any family that is in Revit will show up in this list. So now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to take this bench locker room. This is the one that I got in there. So I selected that. So now what this is going to do is this is going to keep my visualization model inside of Enscape looking really good with a nice high quality 3D model. But inside of Revit here, it's still going to be showing the Revit family. Still going to have all the BIM information tied to it. Still going to schedule correctly. And when we're in floor plan mode, it's still going to look really good. Same with section views or anything like that. Because if we look at the Enscape assets, this is how they look inside the floor plan mode. You can see all the triangles again, and all the line work for that. We'll get into how that all looks inside the actual 3D program in a second. But so again, this is where utilizing this feature is very, very powerful. It keeps your Revit model lightweight and then keeps your visualization model looking really, really good. There's a cool little trick that we've seen people utilize is they'll literally just model a little block of inside a Revit family, scale it accordingly, put all the BIM information in there that they need to, and then utilize this link Revit family to asset feature. So again, their Revit model is looking really good. It's clean, it's lightweight, but then their visualization model is going to be nice and high quality and looking really good. So again, that's a little bit about our Enscape asset library, again, definitely check that out. A lot of really good content in there. And that's how you can link those to Revit Families and place those accordingly. All right. Now what happens if we don't see an asset or a 3D model that we like inside the asset library? Or if we need a manufacturer specific one and we can't really get the quality we're looking for by modeling it inside of Revit, this is where we're going to look at a couple free resources on where to find some high quality content. So first up is we're going to look at a website called CG Trader. CG Trader is a very great resource. There's a lot of free and paid 3D models on here, a lot of really high quality content, again, made for the visual effects industry or the game industry or architecture visualization. So again, we're going to dive into that website and we're going to download a model. It's going to be a TV, and then we'll look at how to create a custom asset out of that. Another really powerful one is called TurboSquid. TurboSquid's a really, really great, really well-known resource as well for getting 3D content. As you can see here, they have some really good collections. So you can really get a whole scene, a lot of them modeled with 3ds Max or Maya or even Blender. But Polygon is another very great one for some more intricate, interesting ones. They also have a very great resource that you can see up at the top here for textures and HDRI backgrounds as well. So again, a lot of free and paid content there. 3D Sky is another really great one. Again, so definitely check out all these different websites I'm showing you to really get some models that you're looking for. 3D Warehouse, again, for some SketchUp users is a very powerful one. You can also get some models inside of Revit that way as well too. Pecan, this is one that we're going to look at. This is more of a manufacturer specific one. We'll bring in a chair from the Walter Knoll collection, and then we'll look at how to create the custom assets out of those. But again, that's a very powerful one. They have 3D models available. CG Axis is another one of my favorite ones to get. I've gotten a lot of models from CG Axis. So when you're looking at creating high quality visualization, especially for projects, what you could do is you could budget in paying for some high quality content, or if there's the free ones out there that work, those work just fine too. Evermotion's a very great one as well. They have a bunch of different content packages as well. So again, check that one out. They have a whole, again, we can see they have a whole Christmas decoration section. So again, a lot of very good, powerful information in there. Last up is Adobe Substance, 3D assets. This is a very cool one because when we're talking about topology and high quality models, their section of 3D assets are already modeled for performance. So they're going to be under the minimum system or under the minimum topology that we're looking for. And again, we'll talk about this in a second, but they also have a great resource of 3D textures. If you guys don't know what Substance is, Adobe Substance is the leading texturing tool for VFX, game, and now the AEC industry in terms of creating textures. And again, now they have their own 3D asset library. So let's dive in and check out some stuff. So again, first one we're going to check out is this Pecan. So this Pecan, again, is a very great resource, this Pecan catalog. This is where it's going to be, I have it set up right now for the Walter Knoll collection. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go up here and let's find a table here. So this Joko Stone right here. So what we're going to do is, again, you can download any one of these that you like. So I'm going to click on right here. I'm going to first switch the language to English here so I can read it. And then what we're going to see here is we have the dimensions in here that this is now. It's going to come with the textures as well too. And we can see the different file formats that we're going to get here. So obviously if you have 3ds Max, feel free to download the 3ds Max one, or you can download the FBX files. The two that I'm going to talk about most are OBJ and FBX files. So when we're creating custom Enscape assets, we take an FBX file, an OBJ file, or another file format called a GLTF file. So for this demonstration, what we're going to do is we're going to take this OBJ file right here. So I'm just going to click download, and then I'm going to create a new folder for this. So if I go here, and then we'll go to say my desktop, and we'll go to 3D models. I'm going to create a new folder for I'm going to call this the name of this furniture here. So this one is called where is it here? The Joko Stones. I'm just going to rename this folder called Joko. Caps lock selected. I'm gonna say Joko Stone. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take my newly downloaded files, and we can see here, I get my OBJ file, I get my MTL file, and I get the JPEG, the texture file. So I'm just gonna click and drag those inside of my models folder here. All right, so now back inside of Enscape and Revit, I'm gonna open up another program called Blender. So for those that don't know what Blender is a free open source 3D modeling software, extremely powerful feature here. This is kind of like 3ds Max or Maya, but this one's free. Again, still very, very powerful. So what we're going to do is, this is how we can check our models. So if we go to File, we go to Import. I'm going to import the OBJ file here. I'm going to go to my desktop, and then I'm going to go to my 3D models, my Jocko Stone, and then I'm going to click the OBJ file. So now we can see here, this put it right inside my model here. So now, all right, so now I can make sure there's no oddities going on. I can even go up here and check out the textures. Cool, got the textures with it, just looking fine. One thing that we will look at is the next example that I have for you. It's got an error with it. So we're gonna look at how to fix that in the next model. But we can see down here where it says this, these faces. So right now there's 20,738 faces and 20,738 triangles. When we're creating custom Enscape assets, there will be a warning that pops up. Like I'll show you guys when we import this one, where it says there's a warning of over 20,000 triangles. So that's one thing to be have in the back of your head when you're creating these custom Enscape assets. It's just for performance reasons. Again, we'll talk about this in a second, but this is where you can see how many triangles this model has. And also, if I go up here to my viewport overlay, I'm going to hit this face orientation. If I see any red on any one of these faces here, I'm going to have to go fix that. Again, in the next example we'll look at, we'll see an error in there, but this is just for display inside of Enscape. And then if I turn that off, and remember in Enscape how we were looking at the different triangles, this is what you're seeing from inside of Revit, inside of these are all the triangles that make up this model here. So now what I can do, I can move this, I can manipulate this or anything like that if I needed to, but this model looks pretty good. I can, however, move this into position a little bit here. I can move this more to the center of my model here. And now what this is doing, this is going to be more centered. So when I rotate this, this is going to be, again, it's going to be rotating around the center axis. So now I can snap that. All right, there we go. So now what I can do, I can hit File and I can hit Export. Again, I'll export an OBJ file or an FBX file if I want. I'll just export an FBX file. I'll tell this where I want it to go. 3D models, Jocko Stone, and I'll call this Jocko Stone. I'll say underscore final because I know it's good. The model's clean. There's no geometry issues that I have to fix with that. So I'm going to hit export FBX file. All right, now let's pop over to the Enscape custom asset editor here. So if I go back into the Enscape asset library, we'll let that load up. Now if I go over to the tab where it says custom assets, this is where it's going to list out all my custom assets that I've created here. So what you're going to do is you're first going to need to set up a folder. So again, I put mine on my documents. So I just create a new folder, custom Enscape assets. And I set that folder, again, the first time you launch the custom asset editor, it'll tell you where a folder needs to be. So then you just link it to that folder. And now what you're going to do is you're going to hit this button called Create Enscape Asset. Now this is going to launch another window for you. This popped up over here on my other screen. I'll let it load for a second. All right, here we go. So now what I can do, I can hit Import Geometry. I'm going to go to my folder. I'm going to go to 3D models, Jocko Stone. Here's my final one here. So I'm going to load that in. And now I'm going to see a preview of what this is looking like. So how I'm navigating around in here inside this window is the exact same way that I'm doing inside of Enscape. So WASD keys to move around. Now this is where I can put the title of my asset. So again, I can do Jocko Stone. You can say table if we like. And then in the description, this is where we could go pick all the information. We could take the height, the dimensions, any information that we want to see. This is where we can put that in to the description tab there. And also I'll make note of the height because that'll come into play in a second. So now we can see it brought in the different texture maps that we have set up for this material. And so this is where we can add in the material maps if we wanted to create custom materials or if we had other manufacturer specific ones. So this is where we would do that all within inside these different material parameters here. And to get a more realistic look, what we could do is we could hit this use albedo map. Again, this one didn't come with a bump map, but we can use the albedo map for that. And then I will adjust this to say 0.1. And then same for the roughness map. Roughness map is going to control the surface imperfections and how blurry or sharp the reflections are. But all right, so I have all my textures applied. It's looking good, but now I need to scale this thing correctly. So right now, this is all in meters. So let me go up to, this is in inches, so 13¼ inches to meters real quick. Let me do 13.25. So it's 0.33. So I'm just going to copy that. And then for the height, yeah, it's pretty close. So I'm just going to move the decimal point over. I'll do point. Now that's automatically going to scale it. So notice how it disappeared real quick. If I just hit 5 on my keyboard, so if I hit 8, 5, 4, 6, and 2, this is going to be front, back, left, top, and right view of this model. So now I can adjust where this looks. And this is looking good on how I want to. But all right, so now what the next steps are is I'm going to need to create a thumbnail. The thumbnail is essentially the preview image of what we're looking at there. So if I hit, again, I can frame this up how I'd like to. Yeah, right there's looking good. So I'm going to hit the thumbnail button right here. I'm going to hit take screenshot. So that's going to generate the thumbnail. Perfect. And again, see here, it says the geometry of your asset contains over 20,000 triangles. This may lead to performance issues. It's still going to create the asset, but it's just there to tell you it's going to lead to performance issues if you start placing a bunch of these. Use these sparingly. So if you have a really, really high detailed model, like hundreds of thousands of triangles, and you're placing like hundreds of those, you might run into performance issues in your computer, especially. So again, use these sparingly. So if you're doing still renderings or even videos, start to utilize some section boxes and really just put those higher quality models on where you want in the scene to help lessen the risk of a crash. So now what I can do is I can also save the thumbnail to a temp file. So what I can do now is hit save as. And I can save this to where I can save this inside my project here. So now I always have a nice preview of what that's actually looking like. So again, that's the thumbnail. So I can hit save. So now this is where I can start setting up my library, and I know this is what it's going to look like. And now I have to save my project. So I'm going to hit save project. It's going to be put into my custom assets folder. I'm going to hit save. And now what I got to do is I have to generate the asset. Asset was generated successfully because it turned green right there. Perfect. All right, now let's close this and let's start placing our 3D model. So if I scroll down, we can see here I have a section where it says a little badge that says new. So now if I go, let's start placing this in this room now. So if I go over here and we'll place this in the floor. So if I hit, again, the 3 dots, I'll hit place asset on surface, select my surface, and I will place this accordingly. I'll show you guys a little why this is going to show up the way it is. All right, perfect. Now let's go find my newly created asset. And there's my nice new Enscape asset that I just downloaded. It's looking pretty good. Again, it's manufacturer specific. All right, that looks pretty good. But so inside of Revit here, why it showed up as a box, let's check out why that is. So if we go back to our custom assets and scroll down to my asset. So if I go hit edit, that is because by default, if I do not, just pulling up over here in a second. All right. So this placeholder geometry section right here, there's a little link right here. So if I don't put another 3D model in there, like a really low topology one, like we see as the preview images inside of Revit for the Enscape assets, it will just by default put it as a block. So this is where I could create two versions of this table. I can literally just model a sphere and put in the cylinders for the legs. That's it. It doesn't have to be super high detail or anything because it's literally just for a preview image. And then I would link that to that 3D model that I have there. And again, I would resave that, regenerate the asset. And then from there, once I place that, it would actually show up as a nice sphere placeholder object that I like. But for now, this is fine. But again, so if you create custom assets and it shows up as a block, that's why. All right, now let's download another one to show you guys. So if I go up to CG Trader, again, CG Trader is a very cool, powerful, great resource to check out for 3D models. I found this TV right here. And from here, it gives me some really good information about the size it's modeled at. It was modeled off of accurate measurements for a smart TV. So really cool. I can download any file format that I want, 3ds Max, and 4D, SketchUp if I want, but I took the FBX file. And so I just hit download and I put that in a downloads folder, and let's pop it into Blender and show you guys. Again, this is where model checking these is very great. So actually, let me show you what it's going to look like inside of Enscape if we didn't model check it. So if I go to the asset library here, then hit create, and pop up over here. Let it load up real quick. All right, so I'm gonna hit import, and I'm gonna go back to my 3D models folder. I'm gonna take smart TV, I'm gonna hit OK, I'm gonna hit open. All right, so now it's loaded up. So we can see right here, let me get this scaling correctly again. All right, so I'm gonna hit 5 on my keyboard. Okay, so before I even import this in or create an Enscape asset out of this, I'm looking at it real quick and I can see something weird going on here, like with this face. It's not displaying correctly. So again, this is where model checking these models before you import them is very, very important, because right here I can see there's something going on here. So before I create that, I'm going to go back to Blender and see what's going on with that. So let's go to Blender. All right, so I'm going to go file, I'm going to hit import FBX file because I downloaded an FBX file. Go to my models, my smart TV, and hit import. Okay. So this is looking pretty good. I'm just going to move this over quick. There we go. Perfect. It's pretty close to the origin point. That's fine for me. All right. Now I can check out what's going on here. So if I go up to my viewport overlay and I go to face orientation, all right, so I can see here, it's red. Red is bad. So now what I can do is I can select that face, those faces right here. So this top one and this bottom right one right here. So we're going to fix those. So if I go up to where it says object mode, hit edit. If I go to mesh and I go to normals, because these are face normals on your 3D geometry. So if I just hit flip, because that's what happened, just the normals are flipped. So what we're going to simply do is just we're going to flip them and they're going to display correctly now. And we can see here, that's fixed. Perfect. That's what we want. So now I'm going to go back to object, and I will turn this off here. And just real quick here, we can see I have 25,000 triangles in this model. So I can look around this model. I can see here, I'm not really going to see the back of the TV because it's going to be up against the wall. So I can sacrifice a little bit of detail. So if I just delete those, it's perfect. A little bit over, but what I can do is there's another way where we can reduce this. So if I go up here to the decimation modifier, if I go to the modifiers tab right here, we're in object mode. I can actually reduce the amount of geometry that's inside of there. Yep. So I'm going to click object, select all of them, and then I could actually reduce the geometry if I would like to by applying a modifier, and then I would slide that left and right to get down along under the 20,000 triangle limit. But again, for right now, this one's totally fine to work with. So if I just hit file and I hit export, I'm going to do FBX file, and then I can go to desktop and go to my 3D models folder. Again, I'm going to call this one, this is going to be a Sony Smart TV underscore, I'll call it final, because that way I know it's good to go. I can hit export FBX file. All right, show you a cool trick too on how we can put a video texture on that. So, all right, let's go up to back up to our custom asset editor. I'll hit the plus button again. Let that load up. All right, here we go. So now I'll hit import geometry. I'm going to import my one that I know is good. And we can see here, let me just move that decimal point again. Perfect. All right, cool. I'm going to hit again 5 on my keyboard. And again, we can see there it's displaying correctly now. So, because we went and model checked it. Okay. So let me hit 5 on my keyboard, 2. All right. So I know this material right here, this default 2, again, in Blender, we could name these textures accordingly so we could better understand which ones are which. But for right now, I'm going to show you guys just how to apply a texture inside of there. So previously you had to put a path to that inside the video, inside the identity tab of the material. But now what we can do is inside of the albedo map, inside of textures, I'm just going to go find my video texture that I want. I'm just going to apply that inside of the video texture here. So now, because my model was modeled in a different program where we could do a thing called UV mapping, so we could make textures wrap around, make sure they're scaling correctly. Again, that's the power of utilizing Blender or like 3ds Max or something like that. We can make these materials and models look really, really good. So again, how I did that was I just applied the video texture to the albedo map. Everything's looking great here. I can even adjust this to become a metal material. So I can tone down the roughness so that it will be a little bit shiny. And again, I can adjust the roughness down here. So my model's looking a little bit better. But again, this is where you can really dial in the details on how all these models are going to look. All right, again, I didn't create a placeholder object, so it's just going to show up as a square, which is fine. But so now I'm going to generate the thumbnail. Perfect. I'm going to save my image. I'm going to hit save as. It's going to put that inside my Smart TV folder. There's the thumbnail. And now I'm going to hit save project. Yep, I know it's over 20,000 triangles. I'm totally fine with that because I was going to section off my model to produce a rendering. So again, thinking geometry sparingly. So I'll hit generate asset. Perfect. It was generated successfully. All right. Now let's scroll down here. We can see my TV. I'm going to hit place asset on surface. Oop, there we go. I'll place that. Let it load up here. All right, perfect. There we go. I'll just spin that. And now, there we go. There's my nice little TV with my video playing. All right. So if we have all of our assets that we want, or if we set up a company, if we want to set up a company library for custom assets that we've created, where we model check them, we know they're looking good, they're working with Enscape, they're ready, they're performance ready. What we can do is we can share these throughout our company. So if we go up to, I have my set on my desktop. So if I go to my custom assets folder, here's all the files that are associated with all of the custom textures or the custom materials or custom assets that I've created. So now this is where I can copy all of these and I can send those to somebody else on our team they just create a custom assets folder, and then inside of their custom asset library, they'll start to see all those pop up inside the custom assets folder. So that's where we can start sharing custom assets throughout our company. Again, we make sure they're looking good, they're functioning properly, and then we can start distributing those to our teams. All right, looks like we're getting pretty close on time, so let's open up for questions.
Cool. That was great. That's really interesting. Guys, if you have any questions for Josh, just put it in the Q&A panel and I'll read them out to him. It looks like we got a couple here, Josh.
Cool.
So this person wants to know, what kind of hardware would you recommend? I assume that just means what you're doing here.
Great question. So our minimum system requirements are a 4 gig graphics card. So I would recommend at least that. Typically NVIDIA ones work a little bit better. So that's what I would recommend, is at least a 4 gig card, because all Enscape's a GPU rendering engine. So we say if you can run Revit just fine, you can run Enscape, but then you just need a dedicated graphics card. So again, I'd recommend at least a 4 gig card. If you're doing virtual reality or plan on doing a lot heavier models, I'd recommend bumping up to at least an 8 gig video card then. So my machine currently, I'm running at least an 8 gig. I'm running an 8 gig RTX 2070 Super in here. So again, hopefully that helps answer that question.
Cool. So we got another question that came in, says, will Enscape be increasing their people asset library? Great
question. So with each new release, yes, we will be getting some new people coming out, but yeah, that's definitely a topic of discussion for our team, is always increasing the people, especially by gender, race, et cetera, et cetera. So yes, that's something that we always will be increasing.
Cool. So here's another one. Is there a way to change the materials of an existing Enscape asset?
Ooh, great question. No, unfortunately not, due to some copyright reasons and some ways the models were created. But be rest assured that it's something our product management team is aware of, and we do have a feature request in for. So again, that is something the team's internally looking at. Just no ETA on if or when that will be available. But again, we are aware of that one. So.
Cool. So here's another one. Does Enscape work with other programs besides Revit?
Great question. Yes, it does. So if you have, we work with SketchUp, ArchiCAD, Revit, Rhino, and Vectorworks. So you can use these custom assets across all the different platforms as well too. So really powerful thing. But yeah, everything I showed you on how to place Enscape assets other than the link Revit family to asset is available in all the different design applications. So hopefully that helps answer that question.
Cool. So here's another one. How is Enscape different from Lumion and Twinmotion?
Great question. So all those are very great programs, very powerful in that respect. Where Enscape sets itself apart is being that it's not a standalone program like Lumion or Twinmotion. It's a plugin where it's directly real-time rendering and show you instantaneous updates inside of, so any design change that you're making inside of Revit, it's going to instantly show you. So that's where the real power comes in. The speed and quality of Enscape is what makes it so powerful. Being able to keep your BIM model and your visualization model in sync. That's where the real power comes in.
Excellent.
Yeah, and real quick, back to the hardware feature. So ATG is the official reseller of BIMbox. So BIMbox does make extremely powerful machines that will completely shred anything Enscape. So if you're looking for great quality machines, definitely check out those machines. Again, extremely powerful computers. Again, ATG is the official reseller of that. So definitely feel free to reach out to any of the reps there, and they can definitely set you up with a consultation for specs, uh, specifically for your workflow. So trying to throw that one back in there for the hardware features.
Absolutely, and I will. I'll share that link, a link to our website,
Perfect.
in the chat. And looks like we have one more here.
All right.
How difficult is VR in Enscape?
VR is simply one-click VR and you're in. So if we go back into Enscape here, so if I had a VR headset set up in the top right here, if I just literally click that VR button, and again, if I had a VR headset set up, the whole Enscape window would be seeing what I'm seeing in the headset. So if I move my physical head right, the whole Enscape window would move right, and you'd be able to. So that's a great way to be able to see through the person in the headset's eyes. And since it's live linking to Revit, whatever I'm changing inside of Revit, it's going to update for me in the headset in real time. So again, it's literally one-click VR and you're in. But again, you will need at least an 8 gig video card to run virtual reality. But hopefully that helps answer that question.
We had someone else come in and said, what VR headset do you recommend?
Great question. So if we go up to our knowledge base here. So yeah, if we go to learn and we go to knowledge base, if we go to virtual reality, there's a whole virtual reality section on which VR headsets we fully support. So we support the Rift S, the Vive Pro, Samsung Odyssey, and the Windows Mixed Reality headset. And then we can see here best practices on how to set those up as well. There may be a question that comes in about the Quest and the Quest 2. Currently, we don't officially support them because we need it to be directly tied to or directly plugged into the graphics card. But we have seen people get it to work with via a link cable or a thing called Oculus AirLink. So, but yeah, definitely check out these hardware requirements for VR. So hopefully that helps answer that question. All right. Do we have any more questions, Justin? Or
It doesn't look like it.
okay.
So we give folks maybe another minute.
Sure.
To throw in some questions. Okay, here's one. Enscape Material Editor does not seem to work with Revit linked models. Any way around that?
Interesting. Let me look into that. Let me make a note of that. Have not heard of that one before, so I'll make a note of that one. That's a really good one.
And someone here wants to know what the cost is of Enscape.
So if you go to our website, enscape3d.com, you go to pricing. This is where you can get all the pricing information about Enscape. So we have two different license options. We have a floating and a fixed seat. A floating license is where you can install it on multiple different machines, but only one person can have Enscape open at a time. Whereas a fixed seat license, it's just for one machine. So you install Enscape on one machine, you launch Enscape on one machine, and that's it. Again, with the floating license, you can install on multiple different machines. And then if Justin and I are working on a project together and I have Enscape open and he needs to use it, I just close Enscape and then it goes back and then it releases the key and then he can launch Enscape again. So again, go to our website, enscape3d.com/pricing. There's the pricing. Definitely feel free to reach out if you guys have any questions or anything like that on that.
Cool. Well,
right.
I think if there's no other questions, I think we can go ahead and shut it down.
All
Hey,
right.
Josh, thanks so much for this was a super interesting presentation.
Yeah, you're welcome. It was great to talk to you guys again. Thanks for having us on. Look forward to next time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.